Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
This time last year, Doug Ford was saying that he wouldn't make masks mandatory, and just the other day he was saying that he won't make vaccines mandatory. Do you think that that holds merit?
No, I'm not really, because you can see how they can flip-flop. A lot of these people are really good at that, so they'll say one thing one day, and then a month or sometime later, they'll just totally flip-flop as they've been coerced or paid off or whatever the case may be. So he could very well change that in a little while.
He's shown us time and time again, reopen Ontario, the reopening act. Come on, it's the exact opposite of opening. And somebody pointed out to us that if you read through the reopening act, there's nothing in there that actually states a full opening.
For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini here in Oshawa at Lakeview Park for a Freedom Rally Music Festival. It's happening behind me. You can hear some music, see all the flags in the back. There is a small police presence with some security and I think bylaw. So I'm going to head on into the crowd and see what we can find out. From what you told me off camera, there was some altercations that happened with police bylaw. Do you want to run us through what's happened?
Sure. So I was the first one to arrive here at 9:30 this morning. There was already bylaw and police circling, and then they parked it, realizing that this is where we were going to set up.
We weren't even supposed to set up until 12, so we already knew something was up. But when they came and engaged at the time that I got here,
there was about 7 to 8 of us, and bylaw with police approached us. I think there was 3 bylaw and 3 or 4 officers approached us, ready to ticket us and shut down the event, saying they received noise complaints, and yet nothing was even set up. The speaker equipment wasn't set up, nothing, the musicians weren't here, and the event wasn't supposed to start till noon, and it was only by this time 10:30, 11 o'clock. So there was no complaints, no noise. Bylaw came over, wanted to issue us tickets, wanted us to take down the speaker equipment, wanted us to vacate the premises because we were going to have more than 20 people here. We said, well, there's only 8 of us. So we're perfectly okay, and as per the reopening, we're now in a phase where you can have up to 100 people in an organized event outdoors. So then the gentleman went back to, well, the City of Oshawa bylaw is if you have an organized event of more than 20 people, you have to buy a permit. I said, well, that's fantastic. I tried to buy a permit 3 weeks ago. However, the City of Oshawa is not issuing permits for the month of July because at that point in time there were restrictions on organized events. I said, but the lady told me I could very easily buy a permit from bylaw when they approached us at the park. Now, keep in mind, there was only 8 of us, so we still weren't meeting the credentials of 20 or more people for a large organized event. So they never should have even approached us in the first place.
They were just trying to shut you down and prevent this from even happening. But as you can see behind me, the event's on full force. Are you happy with the turnout so far?
Considering we've had rain all day, I'm very pleased with the turnout. We did have police and bylaw approach us again. More police officers came. They did approach us again. Again, we schooled them on the bylaw. We said, we're ready. We've got our credit card to buy the permit. They are refusing to sell us the permit. Not really sure why. The executive assistant from the City of Oshawa bylaw enforcement was here, and he said, well, it's not a bylaw, it's a directive. We can't sell you the permit. And I said, but your website clearly states you will sell me a permit if you approach me in the park. I've got my credit card. The lady that I spoke to in the facilities office that issues the permits said I could pay on site. I've got my credit card ready. And he said, well, that's not what the bylaw says. It's open to interpretation. I said, well, let me pull up the bylaw for you because I've got it right here on my phone, plus the emails I received stating the same. Then he said, well, it's a directive. It's a directive. And I said, well, a directive isn't really the law. And when you've got a bylaw that's in black and white that you have publicized for the public to read, I'm thinking you need to go by what you've publicized for the public. And then he said, well, it clearly states July. And I said, no, it doesn't. Let me pull it up for you again, and I will read it to you again. So at the end of the day, they did decide we could keep our event. We could keep our tents up because they wanted us to take down our tents. And I said, again, your bylaw says if it's smaller than 12 by 12 and is fully open, it's perfectly allowed. All of our tents are 10 by 10. They're all open. So they couldn't get us to take down our tents. We still have our music going. They did say, fine, just turn down your music, but we're going to stay here and watch you.
I just really wanted to make sure that we stayed peaceful, tried to come to a resolution to making it all working out, and so far it's been great. And I even got a message back from the officer after dealing with it peacefully on both sides, and like they want to see more things like this happening out here at the parks, and just like more of like togetherness. And because after 20 months nobody wants this anymore, they want to just live. So I'm just glad that it worked out.
And now this officer took your personal cell phone number and then he sent you a text message, basically thanking you.
Thanking me, yeah, completely for like cooperating and making sure that he loves to see things like this going on. So this just lets me know that we're having a lot more active officers that want to see this going on. They can't really speak out, so we're not going to give out his name, but we have active officers who are totally in support of what we're trying to do out here for our freedoms.
So what brings you out to Oshawa here at the Rise Up event?
Because I want to support Rise Up Durham to start with. They have got so many good patriots here.
This time last year, Doug Ford was saying that he wouldn't make masks mandatory, and just the other day he was saying that he won't make vaccines mandatory. Do you think that that holds merit?
No, I'm not really, because you can see how they can flip-flop. A lot of these people are really good at that, so they'll say one thing one day and then a month or sometime later they'll just totally flip-flop as they've been coerced or paid off or whatever the case may be. So he could very well change that in a little while.
He's shown us time and time again. Reopen Ontario, the Reopening Act. Come on, it's the exact opposite of opening. And somebody pointed out to us that if you read through the Reopening Act, there's nothing in there that actually states a full opening.
I personally don't think that a vaccine passport should be made mandatory for only people who have taken the vaccine, because people that haven't taken the vaccine, some people just don't want to have it. Some people can't take it because of health issues.
That's coming, yeah. They're already talking about that. So I'm not traveling anymore. I don't want to go through all that bullshit.
How do we get out of something like that if it becomes mandatory?
I really couldn't tell you. Because you rise up and everything, but I don't think it's going to change the government. They're stuck in their ways, and it's all controlled by the World Health Organization. They want to change the whole world into a communist, so that because more stuff gets done by a communist dictator than our government, because we got too many political parties. All they do is fight amongst each other, and nothing gets done.
If you had a message for Ontario's parents as they roll out this vaccine for back to school, what would that be?
Do your homework, get true sources of information.
Get them out of the education system, withdraw them from the education system. Doing online learning is not sufficient. You need to actually send in the paperwork to remove your children from the classroom, get them out of the education system. A couple of things that people may not understand is that when your children are in the education system, they have value to the board. Your child is worth around $10,000.
Just say no, I guess. There's not much you really can do if you want to support your family and everything. Like they're gonna fire you and stuff. It's hard to say how to get past this stuff, eh?
Well, I'm back home now, but it was a peaceful afternoon at Lakeview Park in Oshawa, where bylaw and police stood from afar monitoring the music festival. From advocacy groups like Vaccine Choice Canada to community initiatives such as the Learning Pods, the rally attendees are really building a community of lockdown opposers who can see that the narrative is being built around vaccine passports and looming lockdowns. It seems like their strategy to navigate increasingly Orwellian dictates is simply to live on as actual normal. Continue having get-togethers, sing and dance together, live like the before times, if we dare remember what that was like. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. As talks around vaccine passports and vaccine status as a precursor to enjoy luxuries like travel, working, and playing, we at Rebel News are absolutely opposed to this infringement on body sovereignty and freedom of choice. If you agree that vaccines should never be mandated, and especially not experimental ones with no clear benefits, then please consider signing our petition at NoVax, that's VAX, passports.ca. We want over 100,000 signatures, and we'll submit them to any organization, company, or institution that tries to enforce vaccine passports. That's NoVaxPassports.ca.